finally, it's a documentary. We haven't actually had a documentary on the podcast for a while. This is the new one for BBC Two, starts on Wednesday nights. It's called The Great Big Hospital Experiment.
I think, actually, Luke, having just come back from the Edinburgh TV Festival, they would describe this as fact tense, I would say.
Sorry, fact tense. As factual entertainment. So this takes a group of young people who are either struggling to find work or are in work but want to have an inside look at the workings behind the scenes in Derby at the NHS. The sort of backstory to this is the NHS is struggling, it's understaffed, and could volunteers helping out the nursing staff be the way forward as to helping out the struggling NHS? Just very briefly, as someone who works sort of in this field, Gary, why, in your opinion, why is it? Because all we ever hear is the NHS is struggling. Why is it? Obviously, it's government cuts and it's patient
it's basically, as you saw a lot of in this first episode, it's lack of staff to be able to cope with patient need. In years gone by, they would look after themselves when in hospital, family members was. But I think in the last 20 years, the way in which the NHS has modernised, the introduction of superbugs and things like that, and the more we know about...
They didn't introduce them, to be fair.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, well, yeah.
Well, and as they said in this, people are living longer and things like that, aren't they?
Yeah, people are living longer. And I think what it is that the gap that this show has highlighted is there's no one to sit and feed the elderly patients. There's no one to talk to the nervous patient. And there's a lot now made of the patient experience, either in hospital or when you visit a clinic, of has this helped you in getting better? In other words, if you've had to sit for 6 hours in A&E, that's not going to help you whether your ailment is a broken arm or a broken brain. So there's this whole idea that volunteers and being able to spend time with patients will help them and help their recovery and going home and not needing to come back to hospital, therefore not putting more pressure on the NHS again.
That's fair enough, yeah. And this does highlight all the issues Gary just spoke of. Now, I watch a lot of medical documentaries. My folks are obsessed with things that go inside people's bodies and taking out this and that shouldn't be there, or what's this ailment. And so this is sort of in my wheelhouse. But again, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've got problems. I didn't enjoy this. But that's a separate
issue. That's a separate episode.
I didn't enjoy this. I didn't enjoy this for a number of reasons.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised with that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I'm shocked by it because, again, it was
you just had a really bad week.
No, I've watched a lot of good stuff this week. It just happens that
there's none of it for this podcast.
There's none of this for the podcast. I tell you what, this. In the old days, this would have been on BBC Three.
I've written that exact note down in my notes for this.
Because it felt like a BBC Three documentary. The voiceover was young. The contributors were
Daniel
young.
Rigby, wasn't it?
Yeah. This sounds awful. I found the majority of the young people really irritating.
Well,
and
I've seen the
show. Go on,
I was just going to say, there was 14 volunteers, wasn't there? But they really only focused on 3. In this first episode.
I presume they'll focus on more as it goes on. So I found them slightly irritating. I found some of the staff irritating. The trainee, the guy who trained them all was almost too ready for TV. It felt too... I think that my issue with it...
You've not worked at the NHS.
I felt a lot of docs. I've seen a lot of docs. In fact, one that stuck with me from 2011 was a thing called When Teenage Meet Old Age, which was a similar premise where they put teenagers in an old people's home and sort of changed their perspective of things. That was really well done. This felt almost too self-aware and made for TV. Yeah, it wasn't.
It was very slickly done. I'll give you that. But I thought that was some. It still for me had a huge amount of charm and emotion.
For me, it didn't feel genuine. It felt like everyone was aware they were on TV, and I've seen a lot of docs that shock you to your core, and people are really open up and tell that.
When that bloke went and brushed that woman's teeth, and when those 2 girls, Poppy and whatever the other one's name was, were feeding that guy, and he was talking and feeding himself, you didn't get that. You didn't get that same feeling.
I found that bit emotional. I wouldn't say with the teeth brushing with the guy.
No, no, not necessarily. But you didn't get that same sort of feeling like with the 5-year-olds and the old people. So
no,
you didn't get that.
I didn't get.
See,
that.
I'm surprised. I think you've lost your emotion, Luke. No, I think I don't know. Maybe I think there's that here in abundance, and I don't know whether you've missed it or whatever. I'd be surprised if you didn't watch the second episode and feel differently.
And I would disagree about the staff as well. I really like the staff, and I really like those little sort of the Vox Poppy moments where they were talking about, you know, what they're squeamish about, you know, their first days on the job, things like that. And no, I could see what you mean about the young people sort of being aware, but these are like 18-year-olds being followed around by cameras, isn't it? You know, you are going to be aware. I would agree maybe that the guy with the surgery, the guy they described as too posh to wash, he was the one for me who was like, he's doing this mainly to be on TV, but you know, there was some who were doing it purely to sort of, you know, prove that young people care about these things. And
I think mainly, I think you've just put the idea of why I struggled with it. I've seen a lot of hospital docs. I've seen a lot of things that have made me feel uncomfortable watching because it's personal and it's real and it's people's lives. This felt too cast for me. They went out and found those people, and
I would like to know a bit of a background about how those people ended up, as you say. Was which came first, the television program or the scheme? Did they recruit people to work in a hospital as a volunteer and then decide to film it, or was it more the other way round?
Yeah,
because I do agree. Some of them did look like former Big Brother, you know, potential Big Brother contestants, as we used to call them. You know, people who are desperate to get on television and have their 15 minutes and maybe go viral. And then I got the feeling that there were some genuine people, like the bloke the main guy, that, you know, the smoker. I can't remember his name, but he was kind of like most of the focus was around him, you know, in this episode. And this whole idea that he'd worked in a pub and he'd worked in an estate agent and he didn't know what he wanted to do.
He was like the sort of listless slacker, wasn't he?
Yeah, and this whole idea that after like one day,
I mean, they all sort of felt the three we focused on all fell into sort of certain stereotypes. You had him who was this sort of Jack the lad, 18-year-old sat round all day.
At the end of the first day, he was like, "This is easy."
Sat round all day playing video games. You had the girl whose mum was a nurse, but she herself found it really hard to sort of look when things were seeping out of these people's abdomens.
To be fair, can I just say, I've seen someone's stoma. It's gross.
I don't know. I mean, it's another one like a confession. I set it up on my Sky Plus to record for us to watch, and I'm now thinking, do we want to? Can
I say, and I know I'm not going to be on this podcast next time, I really think if you try this again with the next episode, if you get over that preconception that these people are too interested in TV and look a little bit behind, and if the stories come out, and I know the next one features quite a lot in A&E, and I know we all, you know, everybody,
and the children's ward as well.
Yeah, and I think that will get you a bit more, and I think you might see that. And I don't know, as we go on, like with the children in the old people's home, they're going to review a bit more about the process and how effective it is. And I think I feel like out of these four, if you were to say to me, which one should I definitely watch more of, I would say this one.
Okay, and also it feels like they are trying to advertise the fact that they're running these schemes, because right at the end they had, like, if you would like more information on this, because the original title for this was Blood, Sweat and Volunteers.
Oh, that would have been quite good.
That's a BBC Three title, though.
Because
that's a bit better than.
Because on the preview we were watching, it was billed as the Hospital Blood, Sweat and Volunteers, but they now changed it to the Big Hospital Experiment.
That is on Wednesday nights on BBC Two.